Hello everyone, this is Tyler Gooden. I'm the writer and director of the FC Start film. Thank you very much for joining us as we take a look into the making of this movie. As many of you know, I've been working on this for a long time, and I'm very thankful to have you here and see a part of this. I felt it important to show you what we've been up to and the kind of work that's gone into it. I do realize that this is taking a lot longer than originally had been planned. It's taking longer than I expected, but I did not want to bring you a mediocre film. This is something that is important. I think it's a really great story. It's a very important story to tell, and it deserves to be told right. So thank you again, welcome, and we're going to take a look at the film, a little bit about how it was made, and I'll see you back here at the end of the presentation. This film is inspired by the true story of FC Start. In Ukraine, 1942, after years of being starved out by Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union, the German Nazis arrived, claiming they were there to liberate the country. But of course, they invaded and took the city by storm. In all of this was one baker, Iosif Kordik, who was a huge football fan, assigned to take charge of the new baking factory under the Nazis. What followed were events that led to the greatest game ever played. It was a game of loyalty, of sacrifice, and most importantly, the reclaiming of national identity after years of being trapped and powerless between the two most brutal dictators in human history. And it all came down to a football game. This was unquestionably one of the greatest games ever played. In a future chapter, I want to tell you more about the story and the narrative choices I made as a filmmaker. But for now, I want to tell you how this film is being made. I think my first feature-length screenplay was written in 2003, and some of these storyboards and models go back as far as the mid-2000s. It's quite ridiculous, in fact, to think about how long I've been working on this. But the honest truth is that in the beginning, I just didn't know how to go about making it. I wanted to shoot this as a live-action feature, which would in fact be very expensive and very difficult in its own way to get produced. Slowly, I began to realize that I could achieve everything I wanted on a smaller scale if I just did this as an animation. I believed, and still believe, that if we do this in short form first, we'll have a much better chance of turning this into a feature than if I just knocked on doors with a screenplay. I started with a 2D trailer to test my idea. These were hand-painted drawings that I animated in very simple ways. I tested it out and found the support of a growing community. Most of you are listening today. With that, I had the confidence to really dig in and make this in short form. It's been important not to make this as a cartoon, but a very serious piece that feels more like a moving painting. Using the script, I did a first pass on each shot as a storyboard. This told me which assets I needed per shot, and it gave me a general shot list. This was then organized by scene and shot number and plugged into a timeline. Along with temporary audio, I worked to get the pace of the story and the performances in cohesion with what I wanted to see on screen. Then I began testing this out using my idea with my 2D moving paintings. I liked this look, but to get this story the way it deserves to be on screen, it was just going to need to be a little bit more. I was having trouble getting believability in the lip syncing of the 2D animation. So my idea was to do our heads in 3D and minimal camera and body movement. So I believed that if I could mix the two ideas, then I would still be able to pull this off on a limited budget and resources. my idea was to storyboard priority shots that definitely needed to be in 3D, and everything else would be according to my original plan. In fact, I think it would have worked. But as I moved further with it, I began to expand my resources, and eventually we started to build the project up into a full-scale 3D workflow. I was absolutely sure that there were some things that would just never make it into this film. But as I stand here today, I'm proud to say that all of those shots I was sure were too complicated have already been done. So as more shots got turned into 3D, it meant that 3D assets needed to be built. Modeling of characters, some of which needed to have physical likeness to people who've pledged money towards this, and all the sets needed to be built and UV mapped so we could paint them. This process requires a lot of work and revising until we finally get the right look. And then, of course, we must do several hundred more the same way. This includes characters, sets, props, and set dressing. I used references from this actual time and place. I also looked into some films, mostly European, such films as Idi Smoltry, which is a Belarusian film, or Paul Verhoeven or Roman Polanski, all of which have a very distinct sense of European interiors. I also had a Ukrainian set builder helping me, and he was very good at matching the weightiness of the communist-era furniture. Some of the spaces are intentionally big and isolating, but typically I wanted the claustrophobic interiors you see in European spaces. As always, I have to make some compromises, just based on necessity and limitation. Each model went through these stages: development, creation, and revision. We put UV map coordinates on each one to be sure that we could paint on top of the mesh, and then we began our shader and texturing painting process. Again, this goes through a series of development stages and final revisions, and sometimes gets changed per scene and shot. We still have not completed this stage, but we've done enough to know that we are headed in the right direction. Each character must be rigged according to the character needs. This is like attaching strings to a puppet. Each character has bones and joints built, and then of course it must be assigned to particular movement, and a controller included to manipulate that movement. The characters are skinned so that the skin itself matches this movement. The rigs, of course, include the facial movements, which are manipulated with the same basic controller philosophy. This was one area that I had to be very specific about, making sure that we got good rigs, but without all our budget being eaten up by it. And animation works best with a lot of flexibility, but a story can be told in even the most simplest ways. Now that we have everything built and rigged, we can animate, right? Nope, not quite. Here in the layout stage, we get everything in place based on the storyboard, concepts, script, and direction. This means all set pieces come together under the production design umbrella. The characters and camera are placed and posed, and compositions are perfected and balanced. Timing, pace, and tone is determined here and tested in the edit. Sometimes we do animatics before animating. This finds the right camera and speed in compositions, and later the animation is added. Sometimes layout moves straight into animation with only a quick test. When layouts are done, we're ready to animate. Here is where life is breathed into the character, one painstaking movement at a time. There's no other way around it. Everything you see was built, created, and moved by a human hand. And just like every other stage, it needs constant revision to get it right. Tone, pace, performance, believability, and consistency all must come together in balance. Technology has not made things easier, it's only made it more sophisticated and complex. These films are not made by computers, they are made by human beings. The last stage I'm including into one main section. This is lighting and compositing. Here's where lights are set, we bring in our shaders, and we begin to get our color, shadow, light, and the final look developed. We spent about 1 month just finding the best render look, and we are still continuing to improve upon that. Each shot must be built in passes, which are then composited into a final image. Every shot is done this way. Each second has 24 of these single images, and it takes a lot of computer power to turn a motion picture over. In the meantime, we continue to develop our best images and use them as benchmarks for all other shots to try to live up to. We continue to test all of this in our edit until we're sure it's ready for final sound and final print. The last thing I want to talk about is the management of the project, which I think is important to tell you about. At no time in this project has there ever been more than 4 people at one time working on it. Most of the time, it's just been myself and one other person. There's been a lot of people that have come in and out, and all have been extremely helpful. The girls and guys who have contributed their artisanship are from all over the world. I have managed to lead this project mostly through Skype conversations and emails and notes. If we were all in the same room together, I can only imagine the possibilities. We've crossed cultural barriers, 3 time zones, and language differences. I'm very proud of our team. I am aiming to build a bigger team to take on the feature. Several thousand files are being measured and tracked. While we still have a long way to go, things are starting to funnel. We're starting to finish things. Starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I would like to thank those artists as well who've helped bring this to life. Lack of experience, technical naivete, physical and geographic limitations, finances, and many other obstacles are being conquered every day by willpower and commitment. Hello again and welcome back. I want to close out this presentation by giving you an idea of my plan for the future and what we're hoping to achieve. This is, of course, the short version. A lot of time and energy and money has gone into this. The next step in this evolution is, of course, to finish off the film that you've seen here, the short animated version. We are in the last lap, really, on the animation. The next step is going to be lighting and texturing and render, composite. This is the final stage you saw a little bit about in the presentation. And then, of course, we have to do our final sound and dialogue and any music and Foley sound, like background sounds and sound effects and stuff like that. We'll have to go into it. And, of course, we'll wrap it up with a final edit and print. And the print, the renders need to go through a render farm. This is going to cost some money. Everything has been costing a lot of money. Almost all of it has been coming out of my own savings. I've been living a very, very frugal existence to get this made. Most of my social life is out the window. So much of my life has been dedicated to this for the past couple of years. When this is done, we're going to take it and launch this into a feature. And I think that it has a very good chance of being made. I feel much more confident than ever about our abilities to do it, how to do it, and in fact, a lot of our work has actually already been done. So by that I mean the models that need to be built, sets, and some of the characters that are needed to be rigged. A lot of that stuff can translate over into the feature. So much of our work is behind us. There's always going to be an enormous amount of work to do until you're across the finish line. But the important thing about that is we've made our mistakes, we've learned our lessons, we know how to make this film. So if we have some financing behind it, I really believe that just seeing what we've done as a small team of people is going to carry over in a big way into the making of the feature. So I'm going to close out and thank you again so much for joining me. You're all very important to this project. It's not a film until the audience sees it. So I wanted you to know that I really appreciate all the encouragement, all the help and support in the dark days that I've definitely gone through on this. I always get some kind of inspiration from knowing There's people out there who want to see this made, and keeping up with current events that are happening in Ukraine has really helped me reach deep down and find a way to push forward through the project. Finally, with a couple of things. One, I'm going to leave you with just a few shots of the story. I don't want to give away too much. I intentionally did not give away a whole lot in this presentation because I want you to see the film. The second thing I wanted to say is please share information about this. Please spread the word that this is being made. I'm going to leave some hashtags and some hashtags at the end of this video for Twitter if you use Twitter. Please mention this, make a comment in the video section at the bottom of this video, and you can write something if you like what you have seen. Any kind of support for this project is greatly appreciated. It's going to need it. It's really going to need it. This is 100% independent at this point. A lot of personal power has been put into this just from wanting to see it made. So the more that we can build upon this community, because I know it's a very well-known story, it's a very powerful story, I just think that a lot of people don't know that we're making this, that we're turning this into a film. So have a great day. Thanks a lot.
The fascists flocked into the hill. We outnumbered them. I think all of Kiev was there. But we had nothing. Some hunting rifles. Few bullets. Allegiances, they're shifting. I don't know who is on our side. I don't know who to bring into bakery. It's bad out there. I seen things.
And now, the attack is here? What? Man, no food in 2 days! They're starving us.
And I've been thinking about something else.
They say Yosef Ivanovich Kordik never misses a match in Kiev. Is it true? I was at every game you ever played.